In this video, we're diving into 5 chilling real-life cases where owners were tragically killed by the very pets they loved and trusted. From loyal dogs that turned deadly to exotic companions with hidden instincts, these disturbing stories reveal just how unpredictable animals can be, even the ones we think we know best. Prepare yourself, because we're about to explore the dark side of pet ownership, where affection turns fatal and loyalty takes a terrifying twist.
A man found with a snake around his neck last week has now died from his injuries. 27-year-old Elliot Senseman died yesterday as a result of what officials call asphyxiation by constriction.
It started as an ordinary afternoon in Fogelsville, Pennsylvania. Quiet, uneventful, the kind of day that never hints at tragedy. But inside one small home, a horrifying scene was unfolding that would leave even seasoned officers shaken. 27-year-old Elliot Senseman, a lifelong reptile enthusiast and rescuer, was fighting for his life against a creature he had dedicated his life to saving. Elliot wasn't a reckless thrill-seeker. He'd been handling snakes since he was 10 years old, a man who knew their temperaments, their needs, their dangers. Friends and family described him as patient, gentle, and deeply compassionate. He had spent years taking in neglected reptiles, nursing them back to health, and giving them the care that others had denied them. To him, snakes weren't monsters. They were misunderstood. But one of those snakes would turn that belief into a nightmare. That day, Elliot entered the enclosure of an 18-foot boa constrictor, a snake that had been mistreated in its previous home and was known to be aggressive. He wasn't trying to handle it, just checking the setup, making sure it was safe. But in a terrifying instant, the massive reptile lunged and coiled itself around his neck. Its power was unimaginable muscle tightening, breath disappearing. Within seconds, the predator's instincts took over, and Elliot was trapped in a deadly embrace. When police arrived just after 2 p.m., the scene was almost too shocking to process. Elliot lay on the floor, unconscious, the snake's thick body wound tightly around him. Officers had only seconds to act. According to reports, the creature was so massive that it covered half the room. One officer raised his weapon, aimed carefully, and fired a single shot into the snake's head. Only then could they pull Elliot free and begin CPR. Paramedics rushed him to Lehigh Valley Hospital, but the damage had already been done. The boa's crushing grip had cut off oxygen to his brain. After several days in critical condition, Elliot passed away. The coroner's report confirmed the cause: anoxic brain injury due to asphyxiation by constriction, death by the very animal he'd tried to protect. His mother, Heather, later spoke through heartbreak. "My son was unique and kind and should still be with his family," she said. She explained that the snake was still in rehabilitation, too aggressive to be rehomed, and that Elliot was only trying to care for it safely. "He was experienced and would never handle that snake alone," she said. "He just wanted these animals to live in conditions as close to their natural habitats as possible." Family members recalled that the boa had been abused and malnourished before Elliot took it in. They said it had never behaved normally, describing the final attack as unusually violent, more like a predator in panic than a pet in distress. For Elliot, who had always believed in the goodness of the animals he saved, that moment must have been beyond comprehension. The police report detailed a haunting image of a man devoted to saving reptiles, felled by one he'd sworn to protect. Even officers, hardened by years of service, admitted they had never seen anything like it. The snake's massive body, the silence of the room, the desperate attempt to save a life that was already slipping away. Elliot's death was ruled a tragic accident, but it raised chilling questions about the line between compassion and danger, about what happens when wild instincts awaken inside the walls of a home. He wasn't just a victim. He was a reminder that even love, when it reaches into the heart of nature, carries risks we can never fully control. It was supposed to be just another quiet morning at Vienna's Schönbrunn Zoo, one of Europe's oldest and most beloved animal sanctuaries. The air was still, the public gates not yet open, and behind the scenes 39-year-old Gerd Cole began his daily routine, caring for the animals he'd devoted his life to. He had worked there since 1998, known among his colleagues as patient, meticulous, and deeply affectionate toward the creatures under his care. But that morning, the bond he thought he shared with one young elephant would take a fatal turn. The elephant's name was Abu, a nearly 4-year-old bull Cole had cared for since its birth. Their relationship had been one of trust and familiarity. Cole had raised Abu from a calf, feeding him, bathing him, and guiding him through training. But that day, something shifted. After a routine morning shower, as Cole moved to the side of the enclosure, the calm familiarity turned into sudden chaos. Without warning, Abu lunged, pinning him against the concrete wall of the enclosure. In an instant, the gentle giant's immense weight became a deadly force. Witnesses later described the attack as brutally fast. A flash of movement, a cry for help, and then silence. Abu's tusks struck with terrifying precision, impaling Cole before anyone could intervene. By the time colleagues reached him, it was already too late. The zookeeper who had once been the elephant's caretaker was now its victim. Outside, visitors had no idea of the horror unfolding inside the enclosure. Police and paramedics rushed to the scene, but there was nothing to be done. Cole was pronounced dead on sight, his life taken by the very animal he'd raised like family. A colleague who witnessed the attack collapsed from shock, unable to comprehend how a creature so familiar could turn so violently in a single heartbeat. For those who worked alongside him, Cole's death was almost unthinkable. He had been there for nearly a decade, one of the zoo's most trusted hands. Abu wasn't a wild-caught elephant, but one born and raised in captivity, one who had known human care from the moment it opened its eyes. Yet instinct, primal and uncontrollable, had awakened in an instant. The zoo closed its elephant exhibit that day, draped in silence and disbelief. The tragedy came just days after another sorrow in the same herd, the death of Jumbo, the zoo's oldest elephant at 46. Perhaps Abu was reacting to the stress of loss, perhaps something deeper, a surge of confusion or dominance common in young male elephants reaching adolescence. No one could say for sure. All that remained was a haunting truth. Even after centuries of domestication and training, nature's raw power still lived within these magnificent animals. And it wasn't an isolated story. Across the world, similar tragedies echoed in eerie parallels. In England, at the Port Lympne Wildlife Park, another devoted keeper, Darren Cockrell, was found crushed to death in 2005 by a female elephant named La Petite, one he had cared for lovingly since her arrival from Austria. Despite years of experience, his trust in her gentleness proved fatal. The park's philosophy encouraged close physical bonding between humans and animals, a practice that blurred the line between affection and danger. In the aftermath of Gerd Kohl's death, the Vienna Zoo remained haunted by questions. Could it have been prevented? Was Abu grieving? Or was it simply nature reasserting itself, reminding humanity of its boundaries? The zookeeper's colleagues mourned him as both a victim and a symbol of compassion's peril, of trust's fragility, of the eternal tension between man and beast.
Mai thì trông kìa. Hả? Thì trông. Làm đi. Qua nhé. Ok luôn.
It was just after dawn in the quiet farmlands of Sukhothai province, Thailand, when the sound of distant trumpeting broke the morning calm. For most locals, that sound was familiar. The call of elephants grazing nearby, a normal part of life in a country where these majestic giants are symbols of peace and spirituality. But on that February morning in 2019, the sound came with something darker. When villagers followed the noise toward a nearby cornfield, they stumbled upon a devastating sight. The lifeless body of a man face down in the dirt, his body marked by deep bruises and massive injuries. A few meters away stood a lone elephant, towering and still, its massive frame streaked with mud. The man on the ground wasn't a stranger. He was the animal's caretaker, its Mahout, its friend, its owner. For more than a decade, the 38-year-old man had lived side by side with that elephant. He had raised the bull since it was young, a distinctive animal with only one tusk, and the two had been inseparable. Together, they had built something beautiful, a sanctuary, a safe space where elephants rescued from logging or tourist exploitation could live peacefully. The man wasn't just a caretaker. He was a protector, someone who dedicated his life to giving these animals freedom and dignity. But even devotion has limits when nature reawakens. On that morning, he took the elephant out to graze in a nearby field, something he had done countless times before. Only this time, he went without his ankus, the small hook used by Mahouts to guide and control elephants. Maybe he trusted his animal completely, or maybe he believed their bond was enough. But that decision, one small act of faith, would prove fatal. For reasons no one will ever fully understand, the elephant turned on him. In a flash, the gentle grazing session became an attack. The 10-year-old bull charged, slamming the man to the ground and trampling him repeatedly in a frenzy of power and confusion. The struggle ended almost as quickly as it began. When rescuers arrived, all they could do was confirm what everyone already feared. The sanctuary's founder had been killed by the very animal he had dedicated his life to saving. Police reports describe the scene in stark terms: a cornfield, a crushed body, and an elephant standing guard, refusing to leave its fallen handler's side. It wasn't rage that filled the air, it was something else. Witnesses said the animal appeared agitated, restless, as if it didn't understand what had just happened. The man's wife later told authorities that her husband had been working with the elephant since it was a baby. He raised it with love, she said. He never used force, it trusted him. But elephants, especially bulls, are unpredictable, capable of deep affection one moment and explosive aggression the next. Even trained elephants can be triggered by heat, mating season, or stress. The tragedy struck a deep chord across Thailand. It was the third elephant-related death in the country that week alone, following two separate incidents, one involving a monk and another a woman killed by wild elephants near Hua Hin. To many, it was a grim reminder of how fragile the relationship between humans and elephants truly is. Thailand reveres elephants as national treasures, symbols of strength, wisdom, and peace. But for Mahouts and handlers, living with these creatures means walking a fine line between reverence and risk. Around 3,500 domesticated elephants live alongside people in sanctuaries and villages, while another 300 wild elephants roam freely in protected parks. Each year, the boundaries between them blur a little more, and sometimes those blurred lines turn deadly.
In dieser Folge wenden sich die 3 zahmen Löwen eines Mannes gegen ihn. Er hat sie von klein auf großgezogen, bis ins Erwachsenenalter aufgezogen und mit ihnen Tausende von Menschen in seiner Lodge in Südafrika unterrichtet.
It was supposed to be just another ordinary afternoon at Mahout Lion Lodge, the kind of quiet, golden day that had defined Leon Van Bilgen's life for decades. To the tourists and locals who knew him, Leon wasn't just a game lodge owner, he was the Lion Man. The 70-year-old South African had raised his 3 lions, Rambo, Katrin, and Nikita, from tiny cubs. He bottle-fed them, slept beside them, and often called them his children. To him, they weren't wild animals. They were family. But on one hunting afternoon in 2019, that bond would be tested in the most brutal way imaginable. The story begins with something simple: a broken fence inside the lion enclosure. Leon walked into the pen, tools in hand, confident that his beloved lions would understand. After all, they'd been together their whole lives. He moved calmly, turning his back for just a moment to fix a section of wire. That single moment changed everything. Without warning, one of the lions lunged. In an instant, the calm of the African air was shattered by the sound of claws and teeth sinking into flesh. Leon never had the chance to react. The massive lion clamped its jaws around his neck, an instinct older and stronger than any human bond. By the time nearby lodge staff heard the commotion and ran to help, the scene was beyond saving. Leon's body lay motionless inside the enclosure, his beloved lions pacing in circles around him, their fur stained with his blood. Emergency crews could do nothing. The only way to reach him was to put down the very animals he had raised, fed, and loved like his own. Witnesses said it looked as though the lions were protecting his body, not attacking it anymore, just staying close, as if confused by what had happened. But the truth was already written. The man who spent his life teaching others about the majesty and divinity of lions had been taken by the very creatures he adored. Friends called it a great loss for everyone. His daughter, Leonette, said her father left this earth because of his children. To her, it wasn't just a tragic accident, it was the price of a love too deep, too trusting, too human. My dad raised those lions, she said. He would sleep with them. He believed it was his duty from God. In the days after his death, videos of Leon resurfaced online, smiling beside the lions, feeding them by hand, teaching wide-eyed visitors about coexistence between man and beast. But the comments beneath those videos took on a darker tone. People began to wonder, can you ever truly tame something wild? Can love rewrite nature's law? It was a calm morning in Limpopo, South Africa, the kind that West Mathewson loved most. The air was warm, the sky stretched endlessly overhead, and the faint sound of the bush surrounded the lion tree top lodge, where he lived, worked, and spent every day among the creatures he called his family. To the world, he was a respected conservationist, a man who fought to save animals from exploitation and canned hunting, where lions are bred and shot for sport. But to those who knew him personally, he was simply Uncle West, a man who believed that love, patience, and understanding could bridge the gap between human and beast. Every morning, West would walk side by side with his two white lionesses, Demi and Tanner Magnificent, muscular creatures he had rescued and raised by hand. To outsiders, it seemed unthinkable. A man strolling casually through the bush with two apex predators padding silently at his side. But to West, it was normal. It was trust. It was love. That trust would cost him his life. On a quiet morning in 2020, West took the lions for another of their routine walks. His wife, Jill, followed close behind in their car as she always did, watching protectively as her husband led the two great cats along the dirt trail. For years, this ritual had played out peacefully, but this time, something was different. Without warning, one of the lionesses turned not on the other but on West. There was no growl, no signal, just an explosion of movement, claws, muscle, and instinct all at once. Before Gil could even react, her husband was on the ground. The lioness had gone for his groin, and the attack was over almost as quickly as it began. Gil tried everything, honking the car horn, shouting, desperate to distract the lions. But it was too late. By the time she reached him, West was still. The animals he'd rescued, protected, and loved like his own children had taken his life. To this day, no one knows exactly what had triggered the attack. Some believe the lionesses were playing too roughly. Others say a flash of dominance between them set off a fatal reaction. But everyone agrees on one thing even after decades of experience. Even with animals raised from birth, the wild can never truly be tamed. Demi and Tanner were later tranquilized and relocated to another facility. The family insisted they not be killed. West would never have wanted that. He had always said his lions deserved freedom, and in a way, his death ensured they would one day return to the wild he loved so deeply. His family was shattered. 4 sons, 6 grandchildren, and a wife who had watched everything unfold from just a few feet away. Yet, amid the heartbreak, they spoke not of anger, but of peace. He died living his dream, their family statement read. He died being in nature and with his lions. It's a story that feels both beautiful and brutal. The tale of a man who dedicated his life to saving predators, only to be claimed by the very nature he sought to protect. West Mathewson believed in harmony between man and beast, but as his final moments proved, that line between love and danger can vanish in an instant.